Podcast. I'm here with Pacific Plaza, aka Alex. Woo!
What's up?
How's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad.
That's good. Yeah, same here. Everything's been like super chill today, thankfully.
Yeah, big weekend, busy weekend, but Sunday trying to recover, but also like getting ready for the next week because it's just not stopping. Not stopping at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, I guess for people that were at Virtual Memory, like they know there's like a bunch of announcements that happened last night. So.
Last night was epic. Like, absolutely amazing. For people who don't know, last night, Virtual Memory 22 happened, and that was awesome. And hopefully for people, if you are finding out about Pacific Plaza, you guys show up for the next one.
Yes,
yeah.
we have a date already, which I'll announce on this at some point when we talk about it.
Awesome. So, like, why don't you tell us a little bit about, like, you and Pacific Plaza, and also Trucks Passing Trucks, because I know that's your music alias.
Yes.
Yeah.
My name's Alex, and I'm from Southern California. I run Pacific Plaza Records, which is, I guess, based in Orange County, which is just south of Los Angeles. And I've lived in California basically my entire life, and I'm like a big proponent of like the West Coast, and like I think I'm pretty like pretty emblematic of like a Californian sort of culture and vibe, whether it's like with the music I've been doing or just other stuff politically and other things in my life, and like love the outdoors, but also like weird old technology, and also like leftist politics, but also I'm really into
Yes.
vaporwave and like DIY culture. So that's it's a good encompassing of kind of where I'm at right now. I've done a lot of different crazy shit over the last 15 years of playing in bands and like recording my own music. So it's been a long
years.
journey.
Wow. So when did you like start? Like,
well, I grew up like playing violin in elementary, middle, high school, and like my grandma was super encouraging with that. And then even me and my mom, my brother did like musicals when me and my brother were kids. So like a long time ago, it's kind of like something I've always done. But in high school is when I started my first band with a bunch of my friends, and that band was called the Paper Orchestra. And we basically
cool
just had
name.
like between 5 and 10 different members, depending on who like wanted to play with us. And all of our friends were like band and orchestra nerds. And that's when I started my first record label to release our music. That was called
God.
Pacific Nature Recording Company. And I think I would have been about 15 or 16 when we first did that.
wow,
And
so
yeah, that was
young.
like sophomore, junior year of high school is when me and my friends started like forming bands and like booking shows. And we didn't really know about our local music scene that much because we were in like Southern Orange County, which is like super, super suburban and behind what used to be called the Orange Curtain, because like before the internet, it was really hard to like know much about the northern part of Orange County, which is very different than the southern part, which is like where I'm from. But yeah, I really rep where I'm from, which is kind of fun. But also like I've been playing in bands, gosh, yeah, for like 15 years. That's pretty crazy to
Jesus
think
Christ.
about.
How many bands
Yeah.
have you been like a part of? And like what music genres? Like, let's get specific.
So our band in high school, the Paper Orchestra, was like kind of like shambolic, like indie pop, like 10, 15 people in the band. We had horn players and like cello players and just random people playing percussion and like really simple kind of like pop songs, but like not like mainstream pop music, just like simple fun stuff. I guess we were really in that band Beirut with all the horns. We were really into like this band called I'm From Barcelona and Broken Social Scene, Arcade Fire, the Most Serene Republic, a lot of like Canadian bands that would have like 10 members in them. We were really into that
Christ.
stuff. And then the Elephant Six Collective was the thing that like me and I got all my friends into, which is like Nutrimilk Hotel, Olivia Tremor Control, Apples in Stereo, of Montreal, and bands like that that all did like home recording and all like recorded, released their own music and through house shows and stuff. And the Elephant Six Collective like really inspired me and my friends, and it's like where I got my first record label name, like inspiration from Pacific Nature Recording
Wow.
Company. And yeah, the Elephant Six stuff and like DIY emo and punk bands is kind of like what I was into in high school. So I was like a big fan of like
Yes.
Fall Out Boy, but only like their first album
Yes.
because that was when they were still like in their local hardcore scene. And
The
you
good
know,
old
and
Fall
I
Out
was really into
Boy.
like Braid, and I actually bought them an American Football LP when I was like 16 or 17, before I even owned a
Wow.
record player, just because like that first pressing they had made back in 2004 was going to sell out, and like this was before they like blew up again. And it was really trippy actually when like American Football and Nutrimilk Hotel reunited. Like when I was a teenager, I never thought that would happen. But
I'm
yeah, it was in that kind of like
surprised.
what's now indie stuff. People call it indie now.
Yeah, I'm surprised I like literally recently found out about American football. I'm surprised I didn't know about it when I was younger because, like, they are, like, I mean, they're not emo, but they, like, it's kind of like in that genre, like rock and stuff. And I was really into that when I was growing up, too.
Yeah, they were like shoehorned into emo later, and I feel like they were shoehorned into emo in the era that I got into them, which is like 2004 to 2008 pretty much, before the like emo revival happened and there was like DIY emo bands that did that whole thing that's still going on, and I've booked a lot of those bands and know a lot of those people from the emo revival. Because eventually
Yeah.
after college I moved back to Orange County because I went to college in Berkeley, and I got back into like DIY and punk music, but mostly on the emo side. Even though I've never played in an emo band, all my bands have been like more pop and psychedelic flavored. Like the band I'm in right now is called the Stereo Soul Movement, and we've been a band for like 10 years actually.
Oh my
But the first
God.
like 2 or 3 years we were just a disco cover band. So that's like a little bit different. I didn't write original songs for that band until like 2012. But
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
I.
so I've just like kept doing it. Like I just like doing music and like grassroots. DIY has become a very like popular and like commodified term. So like I've been saying grassroots music a lot, and like grassroots music scenes and like community-based music scenes, whether that's emo or like pop bands or people doing weird experimental stuff. Me and my friends used to book like improvisational music shows and crazy shit like that, and do like generator shows out in like the mountains. And
Damn.
that's how I actually met some of the people from Chewing Foil. Was doing a ambient show out in the canyon with Corbo from
Oh
Chewing
my.
Foil.
That is so fucking
So that's how I met
cool.
Corbo. Yeah, I met Corbo in like 2016,
Oh my
only to reconnect later
God.
in the vapor scene.
Yeah. How did you like come up with and with like Pacific Plaza and like that label and
So Pacific, the word Pacific, I just really like it. Obviously, like I'm from the Pacific Coast, and like I was mentioning earlier, my first ever record label was called Pacific Nature Recording Company. And then I later did a thing that was a zine called DIY for Life, and then that became a record label. And then at some point I decided to like totally rebrand and go back to the Pacific Nature thing. And it went back to just being Pacific Nature Records. And so I was still technically running Pacific Nature Records and booking under the name Pacific Nature when I started Pacific Plaza, which was kind of like the vaporwave sub label that I was gonna like do 3-inch mini CDs and like release some of my own music and help release like EPs and shorter length stuff. Because I've always been a big fan of like the EP format and like the extended single format. So yeah, Pacific Plaza just came from Pacific Nature. The like virtual plaza has always been like a big concept and like thematic thing in vaporwave. So I just appended Plaza to Pacific, and the guy who designed the Pacific Nature Records logo, if you go look that up, same guy who did the Pacific Plaza logo, but he based it on a picture I took in Irvine of some office buildings like reflecting in the sun at sunset with like these palm trees around it. And
wow.
yeah, the logo was based on like a picture I took, and he kind of vectorized it and made it into a very like retro sort of design because he knew that's what I was going for with this label.
I love
Even though I wasn't
artists.
sure, yeah, even though I wasn't sure if I was gonna like make this like a big full-time thing. Because when I first started Pacific Plaza, I was really into booking shows and trying to book tours and tour manage was what I was trying to do that. And I was actually doing my own podcast at the time called the Heavy Snacking Podcast. So I had my hands in those kind of things. And then the Vaporwave stuff just like grew, and I met a lot of people in it, and I realized a lot of people in Vaporwave were in like DIY punk scenes. And I was like, oh, these are my like kind of like my people. And they're just from different places, and I would have never met them because like in the DIY scene I only met people because I toured and I went to all these like different cities, and bands from those cities would ask me to book them in Orange County. And so I booked like hundreds and hundreds of shows. And so
damn, you're like extremely
that's how I would meet
experienced.
people. Yeah.
Wow.
So Vaporwave's a little bit different being online, but like I recognize the same sort of people in it. And so it's been really cool that it's been so successful because like some of those people are now like my good friends. Just like it happened in the local music scene too.
Yeah, speaking of like your podcast, I listened to one of your podcasts, episode 9, I believe, where you talk about like where Pacific Plaza is going and stuff, like where
the Pacific Plaza radio podcast,
yes.
Not my Heavy Snacking podcast.
No.
People
I did not even know about that till like literally right now. I'm so sorry.
I was like interviewing like emo bands and like indie and DIY bands.
That's so fucking sick. And like you were talking about how you have like a normal job, you teach, and like and all this like the inner works of like what you do and like what was going on and stuff. And I kind of wanted to like talk to you about this and like
so that's probably the one I did like in April. That was like the label update podcast.
Yes,
yeah, that was an interesting one. That one I actually did it as a live stream. I like wrote out all my notes and like kind of like got all my thoughts together for like a couple days before that. And I knew I wanted to do is like a one take on my live stream, but also repost it for people later because like it was very sincere feelings of what I was thinking about, especially like as the pandemic was starting to climb. And I still like, I should go back and listen to that now that I think about it, but like I would say I probably will still echo a lot of those same thoughts. And some of those goals I mentioned I accomplished, but some of them like I still have not. So I'm interested to hear what you think about it because you just listened to it.
I wanted to know like are you, because you didn't really mention like if you were ever gonna quit teaching. I kind of wanted to know like, are you ever gonna retire teaching and like just like mainly make music and your label and shows your priority?
That would be ideal, but I actually do really enjoy the type of teaching I do. So I'm not like an elementary school teacher or anything like that. I work for like a private company that teaches like after school programs and private tutoring based around STEM education stuff. So basically a lot of our stuff is like using Legos to teach STEM concepts to kids. It's actually really fun. It's pretty low pressure. Like I basically was able to get the job because I have like a college degree from a really good university and I'm good at like teaching kids. And I always was like interested in teaching as like a backup career if I was like ever just kind of struggling so much that I really had to just like call it quits. Like that was the backup career, was like being like a real teacher, getting like, you know, an actual like teaching credential. And at one point when I graduated college, I was actually trying to apply to PhD programs to become a professor, but it was just like 2013 and the academic market was absolutely fucked. And I tried applying for PhD at one point and like didn't get accepted to any programs. And so I was like, what am I doing here? Why am I going to study music? I would rather be like a part of it and like making history happen instead of studying it.
And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. And so then in like 2013 and 14, after I graduated college, it's kind of just like doing stuff for a while, but I got involved with a nonprofit. The goal was to open up like a music and art space that was like youth run and youth led, which kind of happened, but one guy kind of fucked it all over and like really screwed me over with it and doesn't exist anymore. But
Oh my
through
God.
all that, I ended up with my own warehouse that I lived in for a while. I ran a warehouse venue. I was booking a bunch of tours. I opened up a couple basically like places to the idea of doing shows in Orange County, whether those are record stores or like skate shops or people with like private property basically. And yeah, it was like a local legend of the Orange County like underground music scene, I guess. Uh,
Damn.
at that point, which was
The
pretty
Legend
cool, but also
22.
like, yeah, not financially viable way to like continue living my life. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in the last couple of years, it's been interesting that this has done really well, but doesn't pay my bills. I still live at home. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
even actually my bedroom. This is my brother's old bedroom. That's now my office because like I can put a giant folding table in here and spread out all my shit.
I understand
So
that.
yeah,
I
it's
understand
not
that.
even
I'm
my
also living at
bedroom.
home. Um, but I'm planning to move out to California. So,
I've
yeah,
heard.
I'm planning on seeing Virtual Memory live. Um, how has like the pandemic like how has the pandemic impacted you with like live shows and all that? Like, how do you feel?
Man, I have so many thoughts about this. Like I could have like a 4 hour conversation with
Let's
various
do it.
people.
Let's do it.
And I think for me personally, I've been very lucky to be able to keep performing during all this, and I've personally grown a lot as a DJ and gotten a lot better as a DJ.
Mhm.
And I've gotten to get my hands wet with visuals and learn a lot about electronics that have helped me just know more about what's going on with all like the gear and stuff I own, but also like build things that I've been like actually using on stream, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
And building pieces of musical equipment that I actually like play with every day and utilize, whether it's in like guitar pedals in my guitar setup, because I try and play guitar every day still, even though my band hasn't played a show since July. And yeah, I have my guitar pedal prototyping board right here.
Dude,
This is a guitar
I
pedal technically.
did you create that
So
like live on Twitch? Did you make that?
hmm
Yeah, I
yeah,
watched
that was
that.
something I was
I was like,
doing.
"What are
Yeah,
you
I was
doing?"
doing my Pacific Plaza Circuits streams. So yeah, I've tried to do more
Yeah.
streaming, and since the pandemic, I've been able to do more of my own streaming, and I've hosted some of my own shows, which is cool because I always thought about trying to do that in the past, but I
Mhm.
didn't actually do it until all this happened. So it's been really like shitty. Like, don't get me wrong, but like
Mhm.
personally, I've been able to like grow and learn new skills and like you know have some time to rest because for me throwing shows like I was not only just like doing virtual memory, I was also throwing shows for bands, booking mostly for touring bands,
Mhm.
and that was like really physically intensive just because like the way I do things is like not at big venues. Like I don't go try and find the biggest venue in town and be like I'm gonna book this venue and we're gonna like be really cool. Like I book the bands that like are like cool and hype, but like
Mhm.
venues won't book them because like they don't get it. So like I've thrown shows with like 300 people packed in the banquet room of a bowling alley in Los Angeles,
Oh my god.
just
That's so
like
cool
because you have
though.
to. And so like I bring in the entire PA, all the lights, and like pay a couple local kids I know to like help me run the door and like move stuff. And then luckily one of the band steps up and does sound for me, which is great. And I think
Mhm.
some people might know this band Glass Beach. They're really fucking good. Yeah, they
Oh
were the
yeah.
headliners on that show in a bowling alley, and they have like a best new music from Pitchfork. And two of the other bands on that show actually later ended up getting best new musics, I think, or like really high ratings from Pitchfork. And Pitchfork writers were at this show I threw in a bowling alley.
I
Like,
I think I
you know,
actually saw like last speech. Do they tour like like have they toured
they
like
were.
everywhere? Because
They were,
I think
yeah.
they came to Miami and I think I saw them as like an opener.
Yeah, they were opening for some like pretty cool people before like all this hit. But like yeah, they were
Mhm.
doing really well. They're super nice. And yeah, so in terms of like not having to do the physical work of like throwing a show, that's been
Mhm.
kind of cool. It's funny because I still sort of get some of the same like physical and emotional reactions like the next day after a good or bad show.
Mhm.
So like usually regardless is if it's been like a show with a lot of emotions, like I'm very drained the next day. So like today when I woke up I was just like so groggy and like feeling terrible, and I didn't even like drink much last night. I don't drink that much anymore in general. And
I drank a lot
the only
last
place I
night.
ever really drink is like at shows, interestingly enough. And so I've drank a lot less because I'm not at shows. But yeah,
That
I
is like the
mean,
complete opposite for me. I literally like I used to not drink as much at like ever, and then now because of this pandemic I've been like drinking like all the time, like especially
it's
with
been
all
happening
these
for people.
URL shows. Like I try
Yeah.
to get turned for each one. Like I want
Uh,
it to be a party, and they're
I
constantly
agree. I
happening.
feel you. When I'm in person with like people I know and like my friends and like people who are like getting to be like towards 30 or over 30 like I am, and like before the pandemic, like I was always like, come on guys, y'all can't party anymore. You guys are all getting weak in your old age. Like what is this? People like
Oh
getting
my God,
drunk
I
at
was
5 in
literally
the
talking
evening
about
and then
this.
passing out by like 10. What's wrong with you? Like, hello guys, aren't we trying to party till like 2 in the morning? Like best time of our lives. It's still your 20s. Like I'm 30 and
Yeah.
I'm going. Like people be weak, but like
Yeah, no.
it's just how it is.
I literally was talking about this with Nathan earlier. I was like, I don't want to end up like that. Exactly.
Dude, like, it's interesting seeing where people end up. I do wonder what people like who've known me for a very long time like think how it's changed over the years, but like I actually am in better shape than I ever was in my 20s, but like also like freshman 15 when I went to college, blah blah blah, whatever. But like yeah, I don't know. Like I'm besides like losing a little bit on top, like I feel like I'm doing pretty good in like the looks and health department. And I like rarely get sick or get the flu. Like I've never gotten a flu shot. Like, and when I started working with kids all the time, like I was just more careful about, hygiene stuff. But yeah, and all the time I was working with kids, even up until like right before the pandemic, I never got sick from them. So I'm taking better care of myself as I get older.
Oh, I literally like was sick at the beginning of the pandemic. Like when shit was going down in March, I literally got so sick.
I got sick in February, actually. I was like
Yeah.
sick the whole first half of February, basically leading up to like the week before Virtual Memory 5 happened. Data Girl actually pointed that out. She was like, "What if you got the coronavirus already?" And I was like, that'd be a nice thing to think, and I got it and survived already, but that's not what happened.
Yeah, same. Like I
I
still
know a lot of
kind
California people
of
who were
speculate.
like, "It was here early. Maybe I got it already." And it's like, dude, no, you didn't.
Yeah. How is it like in California? I see on the internet that it's like really bad over there.
I mean, the numbers are still up at like where the summer like highs were. I guess people are getting vaccinated, but like I don't know, maybe the rest of the country is more ambitious about like how quick everything's going to come back, and now that like energy's feeding over here, because like I thought people in California were like very aware that like things are not really going that well, but like vaccine distribution is happening and it's not like as big a clusterfuck. It's just a lot of like issues with the tier system.
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting to find out from my employer if we qualify for the educator tier, since we're a private company, even though we like do work with public school districts. And I'm not 100% sure because we don't teach at public school districts in person, but some people do teach in person at our centers because we have 2 offices. So
Well, I hope you
I've
do
been, like,
get it.
trying to find out, but I mean, I'll get it when I get it. And
Yeah.
for virtual memory, like we're not gonna meet up all 5 of us till we all have it. So
But,
we
when do
decided
you-
that like when the vaccine was first rolled out, or first discovered, actually, not even before the rollout. When it was discovered back in the fall, like that was agreed upon.
Yeah, so everyone, I mean, I don't really speak for everyone, but everyone's ambitious for like everything to be better by this summer. Do you think by like, okay.
No way.
Yeah.
I
was gonna ask, like, are you gonna
but no.
have shows?
I'm
No?
definitely gonna be that like dissenting voice in the room, I think, for a while here. But
What about 2022?
I still
Are you
don't
gonna have
think-
live shows then?
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But like the summer and 2022 are like way different times. Like
Yeah.
now, I like understand why people want to like believe that, and like there's been but
Yeah.
like everyone who wants to believe that is also buying into what all the politicians are telling you. I thought we were all like very suspicious of politicians, right?
Oh, I'm
You
definitely.
know,
I'm getting. So, I
like
am so
all your
suspicious that I'm
representatives
like,
and all these people are saying July 4th, we could do it by the holiday. Oh, love America. We'll have America safe by July 4th. And it's like, fuck no, that's not going to happen.
I
Like,
mean,
I hate to be like a Debbie Downer about it, but like, yeah, I don't trust politicians that will have this done by the beginning of July. And that's
mm-hmm,
fine because this was going to take a long time. Like, this is unprecedented. This is like a completely crazy thing the world has never dealt with before. And it's
yeah,
totally okay if it takes longer and if there are hiccups in the process. Like,
yeah,
no one could have guessed Texas was going to like freeze over for a week.
no,
You know, like, that's going to happen. And so
mm-hmm,
I'm definitely sound like a pessimist, but I kind of like resigned myself back in the late fall, early winter to like a timeline I still haven't personally changed much in my own mind. So I'm
mm-hmm,
feeling pretty good where I'm at, but I do recognize that there's been people who push it and like start doing stuff real soon in the next couple months. And people are going to start asking me like, when are you going to do it? What are you thinking? And it's like, dude, it's going to be so specific to people's regions. And like, in
mm-hmm.
my mind, the thing I'm wrestling with now is like, events will be cool, but like, what about our friends and family members who are immunocompromised or who are risk averse? I am
Yeah,
not a risk averse person. I've hung out with some people. I have some trusted friends that I see every month, like, because I trust them. And if they were to get it, or if they're going out or they come in contact with someone, they would tell me.
mm-hmm,
And so I am not risk averse, but I can't speak for people who are risk averse, and I can't speak for people who are immunocompromised. They're not going to
mm-hmm.
feel safe going out this summer. They're not going to feel safe going out in October. They're not going to feel safe going out in December without masks, probably, and that's okay.
I
And those
don't think
people's
we'll.
concerns should be taken. And those people's concerns should be taken seriously. So we're going to be
Yeah,
wearing masks until 2022 at shows for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Virtual memory shows will be
That's right.
masked
Yeah.
shows, and everyone will get straws so you can use a straw to drink it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not the Continental, but I don't know if we'll be doing shows at the Continental. But like at FTG, we can set our own rules, and like we will set our own rules to like be inclusive. And I don't think other people in the scene will do that, but maybe they will after they hear this. Because no one's talking about. Because no one's talking about that. Everyone's just excited to do shows, and that's great. But these, a lot of people don't understand the risk and responsibility you take on personally to throw an event where people are traveling there to party.
That's so true. I commend
And
you
people
for
who've never
that.
thrown shows before have no idea at all.
Mm-hmm.
None at all. And you maybe you've been to some that other people have thrown, or you've kind of helped them, but that's not the same as signing your name to be the person who's like putting themselves on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that needs to be said, and it's kind of hard to say that in a tweet. So this is a good time to say it.
Yeah. No. This is a good time to say it, yeah. And like, it's always better to be vocal about it sometimes too. You can.
Yeah, it's been on my mind a lot recently because I have immunocompromised friends, and
Mm-hmm.
like I'm thinking about the like shows or like art shows or stuff like that like I want to do again. Like I throw art shows every year with like different friends of mine because I have a lot of friends who are artists, and
Mm-hmm.
like they did we did our annual Valentine's Day one like online this year, and it was really charming to watch my friends kind of like figure out how to do it from their apartment and figure out how to use OBS, and like
Mm-hmm.
you know it was kind of like a shit show in some ways, but like for me and I know for our other friends it was really awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
you know that was like just a couple weeks ago. So you know the whole URL shows are getting boring or URL events are kind of wearing off. I don't know if that's fully true. I think that's just something everyone's saying to each other
Mm-hmm.
because our attendance went up this month. Our
Mm-hmm.
attendance was lower at the end of last year than it was at the beginning of this year. So
That's
I don't know. Things are
awesome.
getting better for us. So who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Well, I love URL shows. I honestly hope it continues after like everything gets better because I think
I agree.
it opens an opportunity for people who want to stay home and want to enjoy shows just like that, you know?
And people from other parts of the world and country. Oh
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. And like I really see the value of them after like you know, having done it for so long. But
Mhm.
also, it's it's been cool for us to be able to have like international people on the show, and it's also been cool for us to be like we're repping people from our local scene on our show.
Mhm.
So I think it'll be an interesting balance. Like I don't foresee virtual memory bringing in people virtually for our real in-person shows in the future, but I do see those in-person shows having like an audio stream or something that people can tune into even if they're not at the show.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll be able to kind of like make that work just because we've become so tech savvy, with
Yeah.
Tyler obviously being like the most tech savvy of all of us, but like I've
Yeah.
learned a lot too. So like I remember at Virtual Memory 5 we tried to stream the audio, and I like tried to get like FTG's like studio computer working to stream it, and it was just like a headache and like didn't like work, and I was like I'm just killing the stream because I don't want to have to worry about this while we're hanging out. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not for people who like haven't been in these RL shows, it's not fun to have to like be like trying to deal with technical issues or like admin the stream or like you know deal with that stuff when you want to be just like hanging out with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing. Like you have to find someone who's just going to dedicate their night to like maintaining the stream and checking in on it all the time. And I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
So
Don't. You already are the showrunner.
yeah.
So like
So and
that's
I don't want to
already a
make the
lot.
visualists do that either. So
Mm-hmm.
like it's there's gonna be a little bit to work out with it, but I think it will be at least an audio component. The
Yeah.
other thing is like you can't just like put a webcam in a bar and broadcast that on the internet. Like the bar might not be cool with that, which I think some
Mm-hmm.
people don't realize. Like venues might not be cool with
I
you
didn't
just
know
sticking a
about that.
webcam in their venue and broadcasting it to like the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Like I definitely don't want to stick a webcam in FTG and like broadcast that out to the rest of the world. Maybe like a webcam at the stage, but yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, depending on where people throw their shows, like there's varying forms of legality to what's going on. So you maybe don't want to have video evidence of it, just like, these idiots who raided the Capitol had a ton of video evidence against themselves. We don't want to have video
It's
evidence
true.
against ourselves.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. That makes
there is also
sense.
that people got to like kind of keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Daniel in the chat says, let me know if you need a hand with that, Alex. So he's willing to help out with the
How many
audio.
times have you found yourself bored and having nothing to do at virtual memory, Daniel? I would bet it's a pretty small amount of time.
uh,
Especially when we come back, there's going to be so many people that want to show up. We're going to have to do limited capacity for a while, but like when we finally have full up ones, like in 2022, like there's going to be so many people to hang out and talk with. Like I would personally feel bad for that person that has to like monitor it the whole night. Like
you would have
I
to
think
get someone
I think
who,
what's going to be better to do is someone who isn't like at the show. We'll
yeah,
probably kind of have to like admin it, but
or get someone who like doesn't like the music,
it's
who knows how to
all it's
do
all
it.
future it's all future stuff to worry about. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not trying to plan that now.
I want to know because you're extremely multifaceted. You fucking do so much. I want to know like what motivates you to do all this shit and like what inspires you. I want to know. Maybe you could
Um,
help me.
a lot of what I do is like community driven and like
Mhm.
kind of about like sharing either knowledge, art, or I mean, kind of like the values I believe in.
Mhm.
So I think doing things like myself, like DIY, as like cheesy as it is kind of like the reason I do all the different things instead of just specializing like one thing and doing it really well and getting like paid a bunch to do it at like a higher level.
Mhm.
I mean, I have like a degree from a university, like it's not like
Yeah.
unreasonable to be like, oh yeah, I could just do more education or just like go get some kind of job somewhere. But I've like not done that on purpose so I can like be mostly responsible and accountable to myself as opposed to a big corporation or a business that does something I don't believe in. So
Mhm.
like that's why it's cool working for the company I work for and like teach with is they're not a big soulless corporation, and there's even like the opportunity to like write my own kind of curriculum and like come at them with my own class ideas, which I've been thinking about lately, and like
Mm.
utilizing the space that we have at Brain Builders actually to do like electronic stuff because they used to teach soldering classes and do electronic stuff, but not ideal with the pandemic to
Soldering.
be like really close with kids all the time. So,
Mhm.
you know, they haven't like had as much interest in some of their programs like that. But I want to get that going again for them and like help teach people like electronics and like do electronic stuff. Because I just kind of like want to work with the things I enjoy, and things I enjoy usually involve like making it and like kind of building it maybe not necessarily from the ground up, but like putting a handcrafted or, I guess to use a cheesy word, artisanal sort of flavor to something that makes it better than what is mass produced. So like I always want to do the things I do in a way that's better than what you're going to get in a mass produced sort of way. Whether that's like
I
really
love
nice
that.
cassettes, sending out a package that actually has like some cool little things in it instead of just
Talking of nice
another receipt
cassettes.
printed on a piece of paper saying how much money you spent. Like I don't want to be reminded how much money I spent on a cassette. Like why are all these
Mm-hmm.
labels doing that? It also wastes paper. Like duh. But you know, yeah, and like for the artists I choose to work with, it's like now it's more of a challenge of how can we like promote their work better than most other labels in the scene promote like any of their albums or stuff. So I think Pacific
Mm-hmm.
Plaza probably has like some of the only promotional game that's more than just making like a video that says this is coming out and listen to this song that's going to be on it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's all these extras or goodies or why the tape's going to cost $12 because we did an LED print on it. Oh yay, like you could spend more money now. Whereas for me it's
Mm-hmm.
like I want to keep everything at like $8 or $9, maybe $10 if it's nicer, and like keep making it and keep keeping it available and like keep promoting and growing all the artists
Mm-hmm.
and trying to like work with some of the same people over and over again, more like a real label now.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know it's good building things from the ground up, but when you can like actually keep taking it to the next level, like that's where it starts to
Yeah.
get like really nice.
And you
And
can
like that's
rely
where
on
like you
trustworthy
develop like
people.
real working and creative relationships with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't do that with like working with like new jacks all the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like it's
yeah,
cool
yeah.
that I can like go over to Daddy Girl's house and she's like, "Hey, listen to this mix. Like, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, like the tambourine or like that kick or like it's sounding like really compressed or whatever, or like I give that kind of feedback to like people I work with, especially if I'm working with them like a second time or more. So that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. And like most
Yeah.
labels don't get to have that experience, and it produces a better product. I mean, Eventual Infinity scrapped a whole idea for a 10-inch and then decided to make Departure instead. And I was on board with it, and I was like, yeah, like cool. And he needed some feedback on like ideas for like the concepts and stuff. And I was like, dude, like, yeah. And that's where it starts to get good. I mean,
Yeah, it
working with Sierra
really
Mist, like
yeah.
trying to like figure out how we're gonna like translate what he's made into like a physical product, and like what imagery we're gonna use and pull together, and figure out font choices and stuff like that. Working together on that's really cool, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's the real label experience that I don't think a lot of vaporwave labels are giving to their artists.
No, it really seems like you are giving a lot because you're like
I mean, this is what I want to do.
your marketing is
So,
impeccable. Yeah, of course. Your marketing is impeccable. Like, okay, I'm going to show off my iClick tape and everything. It came in a bag with a laundry like sheet, and it was, it's, laundry. That's
yeah, oh dude, I'll
the
totally tell the
whole
story of this too
album
because like
concept.
I can't totally claim credit for that. And the story behind
But
it
you
is
were
actually
willing to do
really
it
really
too.
cool. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, basically I kind of had like a feeling that like, well, Nathan and Will
Laundry service
both like
times.
they both reminded me of myself at that age, except into like weird electronic stuff instead of like weird acoustic stuff. Because I was in like folk music and like a deep hole of weird psychedelic music and folk music when I was like around that time in college.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I had a feeling if like we actually worked together and we all like worked together as a team, like we would come up with some really cool stuff to
Mm-hmm.
make that album like a very special release, which definitely happened.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things Will mentioned was like, oh, hey, like a big mesh laundry bag would be funny. We could like maybe do one as like a giveaway, or like maybe put something in them, or like do something with it. And I was like, how about this? Let me find some smaller mesh looking bags that were actually wedding party favors.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'll put a dryer sheet in them, box them up, put them all in like a sealed box for a couple days, and so they would all kind of like get that smell to it. And then I just decided to ship the dryer sheet with it domestically because I figured I wouldn't get in trouble for that. But I didn't do that for the international orders because I didn't want to get in trouble. But I figured that would just help keep it nice and smelly. So I left the dryer sheets in.
Yeah. That's
But that's
awesome.
not the
I
first
love
time I've
it.
done. Yeah, and that's not even the first time I've done scented cassettes. I had done scented cassettes for my last label, Pacific Nature Records, and that was always fun to do. But it was like such a niche, silly thing.
Yeah. I mean, also with your pop culture release, like, it's so beautiful and nicely done with, like, Lunitas and all that shit. And you just put so much effort. I have, like, 3 tapes right now from Pacific Plaza from you. And they just come in so nice and, like, packaged nicely, and I don't really get that with other. They just send me the tape. That's like all I get. And I like that you put a little more effort, a little more spice, you know.
Yeah,
and
I was inspired by labels like Arts and Crafts, Polyvinyl Records, like Merge Records, Sub Pop, like Discord, and like other indie labels. And like when I would buy from Polyvinyl Records back in the day, like when I bought that American football record in high school, they would send you like a little bit of candy. They would send you like an extra like promotional CDs or like CD singles of stuff that like they normally would send to, like college radio stations. They would just throw that like little extra in there. If you like were into a certain artist, they would like maybe throw in a CD from that artist or make an EP or something extra. And I always thought that was like the coolest shit. And
yeah,
I was like,
it's
oh
like,
my
oh,
god,
I got
like you
a
always get an
free
airhead when you order from Polyvinyl Records. Like,
yes,
how
I
cool
got
is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I would like try to do some element of that, and like I used to do it a lot more in the like early days because it was a lot less orders. And now if I have to process like 40 orders in a day, I can't write everybody a note, and I can't like have a gazillion little extra things for everybody. But I can like make buttons because I have a button maker, and I've like been making buttons for bands forever, and so it's really easy for me to make buttons. It's really easy to do like little extra kind of stickers, sometimes download codes. Sometimes for people who've bought like a lot of stuff from us, I'll send them like a discount code every once in a while. And then if people leave me a note on Bandcamp when they make an order, I'll usually write something back. So just to
That's
keep it like
awesome.
personal. That's like one of the things I like worry about losing if we like get too big or like are selling like so much more stuff. But like obviously that's the direction I want to go. So
Well, are you open to having like an
It's kinda
intern?
eventually like that might just be necessary, but like my current goal is actually to get a warehouse or office space. So I used to like live in a warehouse that was like a 24-hour like do whatever the fuck you want kind of place, which is amazing. And then I had like my warehouse venue, which was in the warehouse next door, and so I had 2 warehouses to do whatever I wanted all the time. Or if people were busy in one warehouse, I could go to the other one. And like damn, I miss like that freedom and like just kind of having a spot to do things. And so that's kind of like what I'm focused on. I can handle the workload right now, and like I want to be able to handle the workload right now, but it's more just like little technical things I need extra help with because it just like takes a long time to edit a lot of videos, for instance. Or like I don't have anyone to film me doing stuff. I got to set up my camera usually on a microphone stand because I don't have tripods. I just have hella microphone stands, so I use microphone stands for everything. You know, but I mean, yeah, so that's kind of like the first step. And then, you know, it's funny, I totally get why people are all like interns, not because it's like a traditional thing that's always happened, but because like it's expensive to have an employee.
That is true,
And
yeah.
like getting into like the real business side of things is something I have to like do this year in like a pretty serious way, and probably need to like make some changes to like the actual structure of the business to like keep it growing. And like one of the cool things about getting a space is like that's part of business expenses, and I have so many ideas of different things to do in a space like that besides just store product, because it's just like boxes of stuff here in my brother's room and in my garage and in other rooms of my house, literally like 5-foot tall stacks of boxes like, for shipping records, you know, like it's a bit ungainly. That's you know, part of it. But also I have like my workbench area in the garage, which a bunch of people have seen, where I build my electronics. I would move that in there. I have storage for all my electronics parts would be great, and like not have to have just random electronics hanging out in the shelves and floors everywhere around me. And also to have like a streaming soundstage. So some people have heard of Green and Gold, GRN plus GLD, who are the Long Beach homies of ours that like do their own cool like stream every Thursday. It's so sick. Like they're awesome. Dirty Merlin and that crew been like a big inspiration to me, and I've been friends with them even before I was into vaporwave actually. And they're like kind of beat scene and do a little bit of dance music and stuff too. And they've always had kind of like their like Green and Gold headquarters, and I kind of want to have like that Pacific Plaza headquarters where like artists and homies can come hang out all the time. People can stream from there, and there'll be like a sound stage because it's a business. Like we'll have business internet, which is gonna be better than like the shitty residential internet I have here, which I think is not doing well on me right now because I look blurry. But
it's okay.
You know, like there's just a lot of benefits that come with like having your own space to do things. And then obviously like my video setup, it's a big giant like table taking up a whole parking space in the garage. So now me and my mom both park outside like in the driveway. And it's like, well, I need this space.
Yeah.
So I need to do these visuals things. I need somewhere to test the gear I'm building. And
yeah, your garage looks tight. I love it. Like I've seen it when you collabed with like Mello and Geo and Mittens. That was cool.
Oh no! That was at FTG. The Geo Mittens thing was at FTG. The thing with Daniel was at FTG. No, my garage is it's an interesting beast.
Oh, okay.
The part where I have my workbench is very cool, and I got all my like electronics building stuff and a drill press and all sorts of neat things. And then I have just a giant folding table that has like my CRT. It has my streaming stuff, and it has all the gear for visuals. And that I would like to put it in a different part of the garage, but there's just so much junk in our garage because my mom is kind of a pack rat, and so like we have like weird stuff from the 90s just because she's never thrown it away. That's why I can find weird retro stuff around the house all the time. Because,
that's great when you're in the nostalgia. That's awesome.
Yeah, but that's why I have VHS tapes that are workout videos from 1992 because my mom's used them since 1992.
That is awesome. Like, and you probably have like the original.
It's cool in some ways.
Yeah. Like people have to go on YouTube to like find that stuff. You just have it. That's awesome.
That's true. My like jackets and like vaporwavy clothes I wear are pretty much like real retro stuff that I've gotten from like grandparents' closets or like my parents' clothes.
Yeah, people are spending a lot of money
like,
for that.
Windbreaker jacket that I was wearing at the econs and stuff, and that like all the pictures of me, that jacket I'm wearing. That's like a real like 80s like windbreaker my grandma owned.
That's awesome. I don't even own a windbreaker because I live in Florida. Like it's not really good to have, but I want one.
Gosh, see, it doesn't even get as cold as it does in California and Florida, I guess.
It's so hot right now. Like, did you see like
it's the humidity? I hate humidity.
Oh my god, the humidity is awful. Like absolutely.
It's one thing I don't like about tours. Like when you get to like you get east of the Mississippi basically, and then it just starts getting humid everywhere, and then like I just get bit by so many mosquitoes, and like that's the only bad part about touring the rest of the country is like it's humid.
Do you have any crazy
touring the West Coast is amazing.
Yeah. Do you have any like crazy tour stories? Like, let's go. I want to hear your crazy story.
Yeah, I've done a lot of fun stuff. Let's see. Do you want like injury, drugs, alcohol, or just like or good vibes?
Good vibes is too simple. Let's go for crazy. Oh my god. Injury. Let's go. Like, who got injured?
Okay, we'll go with injury. Yeah. Oh man, this was unfortunate because it happened right at the beginning of a tour. So I was on tour with this band, and I was booking a lot of tours for them back in 2017, and we did a couple of really fun ones. Minor mishaps and interesting situations on all of them, but like the summer tour we did was a full US tour for 5 weeks. And me and like one of the band members pretty much booked all of it. And we had planned to go all the way to the East Coast. We weren't going to go to Canada because one of the members had a DUI. But we did eventually make it all the way up to like New Hampshire and New York and like back through the Midwest. But 2 days in, we played a show on a Native American reservation in northern Arizona. So we had a show in Flagstaff, and some kids that the band had met before on a previous tour I'd booked them were like, hey, you guys should come up and play at the Res tomorrow night if you have a night off, which we did. And so we went up to the Res, and it was like ska and folk punk and like kind of like ska core bands. And that was okay because the band I was touring with, like, they kind of had some stuff like that, but also just a lot of the like kids who were friends with them were just really into it. So everyone was so excited we were there, and everyone was drinking a lot. I think a lot of people know, like on Native American reservations, like alcoholism is like a big problem, and there was a lot of drinking happening. And I was in like this circle of folks, and the show was in like this shack, kind of like a couple hundred yards away from any houses. And we were passing around a bottle of tequila I had brought, and someone finished the bottle on the rotation right before it got to the guy next to me. And it was my bottle, so everyone was like, oh, this is my alcohol I was sharing with everybody. Funny pre-COVID stuff, huh?
Oh, but, yeah. That's like stuff that I think is going to end.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And the bottle got to him, it was empty, and he was already pretty fucking like plastered. And I wasn't really thinking much of it, and we were just kind of like all chit-chatting. And then like he's right next to me. He just like stands up and just swings at me and catches me like right in the eye.
Oh my god.
And everyone's like, whoa, 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 what the fuck's going on? And all of like, you know, his homies like basically jump on him and pull him back. And they're like, dude, like, why are you doing this? This person's a guest here. Like, everyone was like very cool to me about it. It was like, oh my god, can we help you? We got to go get ice. We got to like go blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm not mad. Like, I just need some ice. And I walked out to like
cold steak.
The van because I wanted to like lay down. And this guy comes up to me. He's like, oh, here, dude, here, drink some of this. And I thought it was a bottle of water. And so like my face is just like swelling up and super painful. It turns out this clear substance is not a bottle of water. It's fucking Everclear. And so I like take a swig of Everclear, and then like that's not what I needed. And so I like spit it out and then like started like throwing up a little bit. And so basically, yeah, I got like socked in the face, and I was like throwing up from this guy giving me Everclear when I really just needed like water and a pack of ice. And yeah, and it was pretty trippy. So they took me to like the nearest house, which was like a pretty interesting situation because it was really like out there on a reservation, and like somebody's mother and grandmother were like sleeping on the floor in like a dirt floor, basically. Like it was pretty like shocking for me, obviously, as like a kid from the suburbs, but also in like, wow, these are the people like they're being so nice to me and taking care of me, and yet like their family members like are sleeping like on the floor tonight. So it was pretty nuts. And yeah, I had like a big swollen eye for like the first like 2 weeks of tour. And it was a fun story, but also like kind of annoying because I later kind of thought about it. I was like, oh damn, I probably could have gotten a concussion. Like no one checked me for a concussion. I pretty much just laid down in the van and like was left alone for the rest of the night, when like I probably should have been getting checked on to make sure I didn't like throw up or like have a concussion. So thinking back on it, that's probably like, yeah, not so great. But also I was like the oldest person on tour with a bunch of like 21 and 22 year olds. So like, of course they weren't going to think about it.
Yeah,
I was the adult in charge on tour, so to speak.
Of course, yeah. Whenever I'm in my early 20s, whenever something happens, I'm like, that's just how we all are at this age. We don't know
like
what to do.
I mean, that's like who I was, like the like dad of the scene, even though I was like 20, like 5 or 6 at the time, like, or I guess maybe 7. So you know, I'm always the mentor kind of personality type, and seem to end up in those sort of mentor leadership positions.
Yeah, I kind of end up like that too, because in my family, I'm the youngest in my family, but I'm the one who has to take care of all my older siblings. Yeah. But everyone wanted to hear a drug story, so do you have like one about drugs?
Yeah. Oh man, dude, Arizona. Oh, man, like there's so many great people in Arizona, but it's like a whack place. Like, I hate to say it. So when we were on a
It's okay.
tour, that have been, yeah, that was winter 2010 into 2011. No, 2009 into 2010. Sorry. And it was our first time doing like a big kind of like West Coast tour,
Mm-hmm.
and we were driving and going through southern Arizona first because we had a show in Tucson instead of Phoenix. So we
Mm-hmm.
took the freeway through Yuma, and we didn't realize at the time there was like border checkpoints in between states, not just in between like the US and Mexico, like between California and Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Off the freeway in Yuma, there's a border checkpoint where they have dogs that sniff for mostly humans, but like they will sniff for drugs sometimes.
Oh, damn.
And we were young and dumb, and we did not think about this at the time. And we actually had gotten pulled over earlier in the journey before we reached the border because my brother was driving like too slow in the passing lane, and a cop pulled us over and told him like, you can't drive like that. And lo and behold, we get to like the border and we're like, oh fuck, there's a border checkpoint. We had like half an ounce of weed, which we were like, yeah, this half an ounce of weed's gonna last us 3 weeks on tour. This is great. And then we are like, oh my god, we have half an ounce of weed and there's like a border checkpoint. And so we start like creeping up. We all get our IDs out and like we're all just ready to try and make this go as quick as possible. And the car in front of us gets like totally sniffed by the dogs around on all sides. It takes them kind of like a minute to go through those people. The dogs get pulled back, the car drives away, but then the dogs run back into the middle of the road right as my friend is like driving us up to the border checkpoint. And so he slams on the brakes. They pull the dogs back and they're like chastising the dogs. And while that's happening, we pull up, they look at our IDs, and they don't sniff us and they wave us on. And we get about
Oh
half a
my
mile away from that border checkpoint,
god.
and then we all just started like screaming and freaking out. We were like, holy shit, we almost just got caught with half an ounce of weed on like the second or first day of tour.
Oh my
And so we lucked out
god.
and we made it. But then we found out like there was going to be another one of these between in El Paso, and we were planning to go through El Paso.
Uh-huh.
So instead of going to El Paso, we decided to drive through the mountains and go through the mountains of New Mexico to get into the get in like the northern part of Texas where there's no
Mm-hmm.
border checkpoint. Turns out there was a blizzard in New Mexico the night we decided to do this, so we couldn't make it all the way through New Mexico. We ended up pulling over in Roswell and stayed in a motel in Roswell.
Yo, if there is
All
a
because
god, he was playing tricks on
we had this
you.
half ounce of weed.
Jesus Christ. It's like
Yeah,
one
so that's a
like
good
one
drug
thing out of
story.
another. Jeez. Well, at least you didn't get caught. That's good.
Yeah, no, seriously, yeah, I am lucky to have been never gotten in trouble in other states.
Mm-hmm. Oh, does that imply you
So there's
have
some
gotten in
sketchy states out
trouble?
there. Yeah, I mean, like when I was like whatever in college, like we got busted like smoking weed out in public, but it's California, so it's like not that big
Mm-hmm.
a deal. And it got decriminalized in 2010. I think that was the year of decriminalization. And so after that, it was just like a ticket, and I never even got a ticket for it. I just like got in trouble, like 'cause you just get caught in a public place or at a park or whatever. It wasn't that big a deal in California, especially in Bay Area. I was living in the Bay Area, and like no one gave a fuck in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And in Oakland, cops weren't even supposed to respond to crimes that were like less serious than like Grand Theft Auto for a while because their like budgets were so bad around the time of the Great Recession. Because that's when I
Mm-hmm.
lived in the Bay Area. Was like in the thick of the recession.
That's like the
So
worst time to live there. What were you thinking?
no, it was a great time to live there. No, it
Really?
was before all the tech bros like took over. It was before everything got crazy expensive. People were riding high on Obama getting elected. Like, I mean, I wasn't super into that, but like a lot of people were.
Mm-hmm.
And like there was a lot of like protest stuff going on to like stop like tuition hikes and stop a lot of the bad stuff happening. And like for Occupy to start, like you needed these movements that happened at the universities, and like those were student movements I was part of when I went to school. Like that's the kind of stuff that like led to Occupy happening. So
Wow. So you're
it's a
actually
good time. It was a
extremely
great time to be in the Bay
lucky.
Area.
Yeah, you were able to experience a good life there. Now it's like it's so expensive. Like Agnes, and
Yeah.
he's in chat. He would know. He was saying how
Yeah,
like
that's
it's
why I
crazy
moved back home.
expensive.
It was too expensive to stay. I couldn't justify paying $1,000 a month for my own room and like not have like creative space attached to that. So I was like, well, if I move home, I have like a lot of space and kind of figure out what I'm going to do
Yeah.
and do the grad school thing or wait for the grad school application process thing, which then I abandoned after after it. So then I lived in
Yeah.
a warehouse for 3 years.
Awesome. How was that? Like, how is living in a warehouse?
Has its ups and downs. It's pretty cool to just like basically like let bands from all over the world like just sleep over and like hang out with them, and it's pretty cool to just like smoke weed in your bedroom whenever you feel like it. And it's cool to just like play drums at like 4 a.m. when you just want to like learn a drum beat from like a Mac DeMarco song or something. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I mean, I started a live sessions video thing with a person I knew at that time. So we would have bands come in and we would record live session videos, like fully mic'd up, like Audio Tree, or I don't know what the popular ones are anymore, but like there's big ones. And, you know, we threw shows, we would do like art gallery kind of stuff. Like it was cool. It was pretty sweet. I mean, we literally could just spray paint our walls and paint them however we wanted to. We would bring like liquid lights in and just like project psychedelic liquid lights all over the walls and ceiling. And yeah, it was amazing.
Everything you're saying, it just feels like you've lived life to the fullest. And that's like, do you feel like you've done like everything you could ever imagine doing, or you're like, you want more?
No way. Oh god, not at all. No. I mean, it's been nice during the pandemic to like have time to pursue a lot of things that I wouldn't have had time for otherwise. And so I've been lucky that it's worked out for me.
That's
like
awesome.
that. It's not been like that for everybody. So
Yeah.
I've gotten better at taking advantage of every day, and I wake up earlier now. I really like want to wake up and work on label stuff. I like want to have that extra hour or two to like tinker around with electronics or watch a video where someone just takes apart something for like an hour. And I enjoy just the zen of like packaging tapes over and over and over while like watching an Age of Empires esports game.
Oh my god, you like
So
Age of Empires?
I have a pretty chill lifestyle. I just wish it was in a slightly different setup in terms of physical location.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I just like had to end the warehouse things at the time, because that was just like when the living warehouse closed down, that was a couple months. That was like a month or two after my dad died. And then my music venue got closed like a year and a half later, and I had just opened it up. Well, I had just secured the lease for it when my dad had died, so like I was just about to go into like a huge new phase of like life and like booking and running a venue basically. And then like a lot of shit happened, and then the place we were living in got flooded by a marijuana grow op next door. And because we had basically illegally built a bunch of like bedrooms and studio rooms, they all got like water damage. We didn't have insurance. Luckily our gear was fine, but like, yeah, we didn't really have proper insurance because we were living there illegally. But like, it was really cool having the space. And so I still had my warehouse for a year after that, which was my music venue called Riff Mountain. That's where all the Riff Mountain references are. And the banner I have in those videos is the same banner that was hanging behind the stage. And me and my friends painted that together. So I had Riff Mountain for like a year after that, a year and a half after that, which was cool. We were doing art shows every other month, and I could screen print in there. I could record in there. My bands practiced there. And I also had an office in there. There were some other bands that had practice spaces within the building. So like Earthboy Advance, he actually rented out one of the rooms for me, and he had his own private little like drum room. in Rift Mountain, which was cool. We had like a lounge green room that was literally green because I put a green light bulb in it, and we would just like play video games and smoke weed, and like we had a fridge in there that was always stocked with drinks and Del Scorcho sauce.
Hell yeah.
Good shit.
That sounds like good shit. That sounds like a lot of fun. I
So,
want to live in a warehouse.
I want to do
now.
something like that, but for Pacific Plaza. And
Yeah.
like, I don't really know if I want to like live there. I would actually probably be down to live in a warehouse again. I just don't think my girlfriend would be down for me to live in a warehouse again.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I do want it to be a place people can crash when they come through on tour. So it needs to be at least like that chill enough of a location where you're not going to get in trouble for that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like why I need a warehouse for Pacific Plaza, so we can hang out there and we can make stuff there and I can do shit there, and yeah, I can smoke weed there, and like I can play really loud drones at like 2 a.m.
Well, I want to ask everyone to put in questions in chat. Let's do the questionnaire now. Get that out.
Right, I've been like trying to glance down at this and like I keep forgetting.
It's okay. Earthboy Advance, he said, I was there more than you the last several months. Oh, you guys live together in the warehouse?
Yeah, well, no. Basically, Earthboy was actually renting space in the warehouse I lived in to like store drums there and practice there. And yeah, so like the last couple months was pretty rough because yeah, my dad died like a month and a half before it closed. Mm-hmm. And before that it was the summer, and so there was like touring and other crazy shit I was like trying to do, and yeah. There was and I started working at the escape room. I worked in an escape room for like a year or two. And I was doing DoorDash basically and other shit to pay the bills. So I would do a fuckload of DoorDashing to basically make money to cover rent, because I had to basically cover rent every month and then like wait for everyone to pay me back, which was a really awkward way to do things, but like was insanely stressful.
Yeah,
and so like I was just doing so much DoorDash down here where I live now and sleeping here at my mom's house because all the rich people live down here. So I make a lot more money doing DoorDash down here. And then the escape room I was working at was closer to here too, because that was in Irvine.
I'm sorry.
Southern Irvine.
An escape room, that's like one of those places where like people are locked in a room or something, because I'm thinking like
you solve puzzles to get out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm on the money with that. Okay, that's so fucking cool. Did you do it?
That was an interesting time.
Did you ever get to do it for free with like your friends because you worked there?
Yeah, we had to do it before getting hired, basically. Not like we didn't have to pay to do it, but like yeah, me and my friends did it. We were all like really stoned when we did it, and we didn't get very far. But my friend who got me the job was the one who was running the room for us, so she just thought it was really fucking funny to watch us like struggle. Because yeah, I got hired at that job because one of the person that was basically acting as like the art gallery coordinator for Rift Mountain was working at that escape room, so she got me that job because I just like wanted a job that I didn't have to drive around in the hot sun all day. It was pretty chill because the air conditioning was on all the time and it was pretty low pressure, and I would just like sit there and like design flyers and J cards all the time. But yeah, luckily I stopped working there right before the pandemic hit, because that would have been a shitty place to have to work at in the early days of the pandemic. So like I got out of there right before like case numbers started rising. Yeah, so that was actually a blessing in disguise. But my goal for 2020 was to quit all my side jobs and hustle jobs and just teach and do vaporwave and book shows. That was my like 2020, what it was going to be. And then with the booking shows would come touring. And so we were already talking about trying to set up tours for Pacific Plaza artists back in February of last year for the summer, but obviously none of that happened.
Yeah, I had plans for life too, and fucking fuck you, COVID. Just fuck you. And the politicians who made it worse. Okay, so Shiro City asks, Alex, will you come on Hot Takes?
Yeah, I'm down.
Hell yeah. Okay, Sleep Pattern asks, Alex, what is your favorite kind of cookie, and what do you love most about the MX50?
My favorite kind of cookie. Um, what's the Girl Scout cookie that has like caramel and chocolate and coconut on it?
Oh my god, I
What's
don't
that called?
know. I only know Thin Mints.
Are they called
That's my
samosas?
favorite.
Like, I don't want to say that
Samosas,
because if it's
yes.
wrong, it's
No, I
wrong.
think that is
Okay,
a
okay, okay.
yeah. I
I
think
don't want
that's
to
what
be
it's
wrong.
called. Yeah, that
I
sounds
like
about
that.
right.
I like snack foods, but I don't do dessert like little dessert things. Even though I love
Hmm.
dessert, but like in my like snack food repertoire, like I have like a deep love and knowledge of different weird snack foods and like trying weird snack foods, but not weird dessert foods actually. Like my desserts are pretty like normal and pretty boring.
Do you ever get like when you're eating something salty, you like really fucking crave something sweet afterwards, or vice versa? Because that happens to me.
I'm a massive fan of the sweet and salty combo.
Yeah, like seriously,
Best.
like
Love it.
yeah.
Love it. Oh
Also,
yeah.
what do you love most about the MX-50?
Um hmm. Mosaic is pretty cool. I like Mosaic a lot, but I don't that's not really unique to the MX-50. Um I don't know, downstream key is pretty sick. I've been learning a lot about downstream key, and I've actually been wanting to make my own basically like uh shape videos. I think I've heard of other people doing this where you just make like a video file or a VHS of just like shapes, and they're just like very blocky, very solid shapes and contrasting colors, so you can use them in your downstream key to kind of create shapes around the images that you have. So I've been thinking about that lately. So I think I'll go with the downstream key and the external camera input for downstream key.
Awesome. Shiny Crystal Pistol asks, what would be a dream artist to release a cassette for? That's a good question.
Um, Dream artist. Does it? Shoot. I mean, so I don't like think about that too much. Like I don't think about trying to like get bigger artists onto my label. A lot of what I've been thinking about, especially over the last 6 months and going back to like our summer releases, was like how to make the artists I already work with like bigger. Um, but I guess like Cat System Corp, it'd be cool if I could reissue some of like his older stuff I really like. That's got like really great like vapor funk vibes. Um,
Someone should clip
yeah, that would be
this
cool.
and send it to him.
I guess it'd be really cool to release something from Eyeliner. Luke just seems like a
Yes.
really nice guy, and like he'd be like really fun to work with. Like the creative process with him for getting like from going from like audio to having a fully packaged product sounds like it's probably like a really good time. When I was reading some interviews with him about his most recent album, he talked about like his mood board and different images he was putting together that like inspired him, and he hoped would inspire like Keith, who did the artwork for him. So I think it'd be really fun to like go through the process with Eyeliner, even if it was just like an EP or like a smaller release like that. That'd be really cool. And then like DDS obviously would be like super sick, but I don't know if I have like a big enough vision to like properly do like a release of theirs justice. I don't know if my like scope of promotion and ideas and like the things I'd be willing to take on are like enough for like how encompassing that project is, which is why like Death Dynamic Shroud is so amazing, because it feels like a lot more than just like the music that they put out. And you especially like get that vibe if
Definitely.
you have seen them live, which I have twice, and like it's just mind-blowing experience both times. And having talked to James a little bit like at the econs, like very cool people, very very
I
mind-blowing
know them now on a personal
project.
level.
It's not even just a band. It's not even just a band, you know? It's like a
Yeah.
project. And I like things
Yeah.
that are like more than just a band. There's not enough of that in Vaporwave, but the people who are doing that seem to have a lot of success with it, like Donor Lens and
Male
know.
tears. Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely helping them out for sure. Yeah. So kind of like that Runners Club 95, and I know some other people that are working on like collab works and like split albums or collab albums.
Yeah.
Some of them I can and can't say, but like I've heard some of the stuff from those people, and it's like, damn, like yeah.
Yeah.
So
Runners
I want to
Club
do like
95
I want to do a comp of like Pacific Plaza fam collaborating with each other. That was like a compilation idea I had that I just like it's
like
in
a
line
combo
after
champ.
the current ones I'm working on. Yeah,
That would be so
exactly.
cool.
Except
That
not
needs to
assigning
happen.
people, just like yeah. There's already
I
enough
want that
people on
to
Pacific
happen.
Plaza who are collaborating and want to collaborate with each other that like I just need to formalize it.
Yeah.
But I have another compilation
You
that I
could-
haven't been able to put out yet, so I'm just like backed up with shit.
Yeah.
And backed up with ideas.
I'm just like, that excites me a lot. Like, I could see it, like, you know, dad a girl with groovy kaiju, or like, you know, it's just really cool. And then maybe make VHSs for it too. That would be cool. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, it's interesting. Pacific Plaza Video is almost like its own little sub thing. At least that's how I think of it. Like, it's cool that some of it has overlap with like releases, like the Data Girl stuff that's coming up this Friday. But like becoming friends with Sleep Pattern and having them teach me like the way of visuals and like them kind of giving me an insight into the visualist's perspective of the scene right now and like of shows kind of made me realize like the direction I wanted to take it. And I don't want to set it completely aside as a separate entity because visualists should not be a separate thing. They are part of the whole, you know, movement of vaporwave. But also, like, I did want to call it Pacific Plaza Video and like create its own catalog number series and eventually sort of standardize our releases and have the motion graphic at the beginning of the video and at the end of the video, which we haven't done yet. But like, we have a lot of ideas. For it standing as its own entity with sort of a Sleep Pattern, they're like the guru for the label.
Yeah. We love Sleep
or that side of the
Pattern.
label, I should say.
Shout out Sleep Pattern.
They're great.
Yeah. Game Millhouse asks, Dream Synthesizer, question mark.
Probably one that I build myself.
Dude, you can
Actually,
build
the synth project I want to... The two synthesizer related projects I want to do right now. One is making a modular Lunetta system, which is basically just like a banana jack modular in whatever kind of size I want to do it. And then the other thing is building a MIDI controller that's just like a custom box with just like a couple sliders and knobs that are very specifically mapped to vaporize songs in Ableton. So those are kind of like the two synth-related projects that I have on the horizon, along with filling in panels in my video synth, which was what we were using last night, but I haven't actually created my modules for it. I just have it on a breadboard, and then I have like the brain made. So I need to take the stuff on the breadboard and put it into a module, and put the module next to the brain.
That's so cool. Are you gonna stream that like you did?
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and get back to it. The thing is I'm teaching during the day on Tuesdays and Wednesdays now. Initially, I wasn't teaching during the day at all. I was only teaching in the afternoons, and then my work got me some more hours, which is good because I kind of like needed it because I'm just kind of like exhausting my money every month. And then like luckily there's been like stimuluses, or like a release does really well, or like I put out my Christmas tape and like I made money off of that, and I like needed to make money off of that because I have bills. Even though I don't have rent, like I still have bills, and I don't like get that many hours at work. There's only so much you can do for after school programs when there's no in-person after school programs.
Yeah,
like,
of course, yeah.
Luckily I do teach through Zoom, which is cool, but it's much different, and obviously the hours are super limited. And I used to just get a lot more hours doing like demonstrations and like other like in-person things with kids at private schools. I just can't do any of that anymore. So like I'm almost back to where I was in terms of like hours for employment, but that's still barely even part-time hours, because like my whole goal was to like work part-time hours, and the music was going to be going so well, and touring and merchandise was going to come through, and the label would make more money basically, and I could like, pay myself, which is the goal.
Yeah. Hopefully 2022 will finally get you there. And
well, I mean, to be like super transparent, like I do make money. Like, it's not like I don't pay myself for like the time I spend on this. I mean, I spend hours making cassettes. So in the budget for each cassette that we make, there is a $10 an hour like stipend I pay myself, and it's about 2 hours of work basically to like put together and assemble the cassettes. Realistically, it takes more than that, but I usually just bill 2 hours for a run of 50. So I pay myself $20 for every run of 50 that we put out.
oh, wow.
So like, do like 5 releases, okay, I can like give myself $100. But like $100 is just like, oh cool, that buys me weed, like big deal. It's not gonna pay bills, that's the thing. And if I have a space, then I don't need to pay myself, I'm gonna pay the rent on the space. So when I launch a fan club, which I keep saying I'm gonna do, and I'm really trying to like get it all together soon. Like, the idea is that extra money goes to label overhead, and part of label overhead will be a space. And part of having a space means the label will do a fuckload more and, like, will produce a lot of content, hopefully to the point where I can choose how many classes a week I want to teach. That's my goal. Is like, I just want to teach what I want to and when I want to, as opposed to I need at least this many hours a month so I'm not, like, living paycheck to paycheck. Because I had finally gotten out of that before COVID, man. I like actually had savings before COVID. It was great.
Vaporwave pays for weed. Nice.
Pretty much. I mean, I also buy my weed super cheap and very infrequently. I mean, anyone that knows me knows, like, I smoke a lot, but, like, I basically smoke spliffs all the time, which is like half and half. For those who are not acquainted with like marijuana culture. So, it lasts a lot longer, and I don't buy fancy shit. I don't go to a store where there's some millennial serving me in an LED lit room.
Yeah. Oh my god. A-Greg11 asks, question, what's something you wish you knew when you first started booking/planning shows?
I guess I wish I knew how to space out set times and the changeovers between sets properly so you can actually plan an event and have it run on time. Because that's, I think, the biggest problem with live events that aren't like super big corporate things or at like super annoying venues where security guards are literally going to like touch you everywhere, is that like punk shows run like not on time at all. And like a lot of DJ nights are very loose and don't run on time. And you can plan to run things loose. Like with virtual memory, we plan things to be very loose. And so the only thing I was stressful about IRL virtual memory is that we were like always trying to figure out how to get our like audio set up perfectly and then find a way to stream it. And the stressful part was trying to add the streaming to it when we were doing it IRL. And we were only trying to stream the audio. We weren't even trying to stream other stuff. And we found out that was more of a function of the venue, not us. Because the other thing I wish I had known is if to like do a good job booking shows, you need to like understand the capabilities of the venues you're booking in, and you need to understand how to put the right shows in the right spaces. That would be the other thing.
Wow. Yeah. I'm trying to find if there's any more questions.
Oh, I saw no Genki here. Getting serious.
I love
Do you
that
1099 or W-2? No one is an employee of this label. It is a whatever sole corporation or sole proprietorship. That's the right word. And so I have to pay taxes this year. That's kind of rough, actually. I didn't realize like I was going to hit the PayPal minimums where PayPal reports your earnings to the government. And the problem with mine is that I also had earnings from live shows because I was booking shows in the first 2 months of the year, and some of those shows did really well. And I paid the bands really well. Luckily, I didn't actually pay anyone over $600 in 2020, like individually. So I don't have to 1099 anybody. But I am worried about that for the future, especially as our artists grow. Like, actually, tax issues might become a thing. I don't know how some of these other labels avoid it if they're actually paying their artists, but I know some of the legit labels out there, like Aqua Blanca and folks like that, and obviously 100%, like, they talk about these things, and they've been thinking about it a lot, and it's one of their, like, things that's on their mind that they don't talk about publicly. And it's been on my mind a lot, too, because it's something I really have to deal with this year. And that's why I'm trying to change the structure of my business, because this is a small business, but it only really employs me. I have an EIN that I had to get this year because I had to fill out taxes, but I haven't done my taxes yet because I'm lazy.
I haven't been employed this entire year, and I'm like, ugh, do I have to pay for taxes? I don't even know.
You might have to do taxes just because, like, there were stimulus payments.
Yeah.
And
I
stuff like
qualified
that.
for that because I worked in March, but...
Yeah, well, if you worked at all, you should probably fill out taxes just because you can get your money back from the taxes that you paid. Like, if you didn't make much money, then you don't have to pay much taxes. So, like, I've always actually been in a really, really low tax bracket because I always have, a lot of business expenses. So when I was doing DoorDash, I was an independent contractor running my own business. So I wrote off a lot of expenses from that. I never wrote off music expenses for all the years I was doing it because a lot of those expenses were money being spent doing illegal things, like renting warehouses that were not doing legal things, I guess. So, like, I can't write off, like, my Riff Mountain, like, rent because, like, it wasn't a fully legal venue. So I would have had to, like, come up with a front for it, and, like, if you're gonna break the law, I might as well just do it quietly instead of trying to make a front. Like, I don't have lawyers or, like, rich people to bail me out of shit. So when I break the law, I just try and do it quietly and then ask for forgiveness later. So, like, when the city caught my venue, I just basically was like, yep, jig is up, guess we're gonna close down, no big deal. It cost me money to close it down, but, like, I didn't even take half the furniture out. I left the stage in there because I built the stage out of wood pallets. And I just left it all in there because I was like, fuck doing any work to move out of here. They weren't going to give me my security deposit back. So I was like, have fun deconstructing our nasty warehouse.
Well, awesome.
Because it had roof leak issues because the building manager would not fix the roof. So.
I wanted to ask.
That's what you get.
What inspired you to start a podcast? And my example for me, like, I was inspired by, like, Super Mega podcasts and Cold Ones and 100p. So, like, did someone inspire you? I don't know.
So my old podcast, which is still up on Spotify and all those places, is called the Heavy Snacking Podcast. And what I would do on that podcast is I would interview bands kind of like in my DIY touring scene, and I would basically do the first half just like bio, kind of general music like background and their history, and ask about their releases and other stuff. And I was really inspired by Nardwar the Human Serviette.
Nardwar,
yes. And I was really into like radio sessions when I was a teenager. So back in the day on file sharing websites, people would share the audio from like KEXP, KCRW, WFMU, like all these college radio stations that would do live sessions with big indie artists. And there would always be an interview segment in the middle of it. And so when you were downloading these live sessions from SoulSeek or from blogs, there would also be a track that was called Interview. And I always loved listening to those interviews. And I always really liked audio, kind of like deep interview stuff, and like used to just read tons and tons of print interviews and like really good long form interviews. And when I started doing the DoorDash thing and driving a lot and going on tour more, I needed stuff to listen to while driving, and I got really into podcasts. So I listen to a bunch of podcasts very regularly, and a lot of them, almost all of them, are long-form interview podcasts. So I'm just a big fan of the interview format. I love interviewing people, and I kind of had like, my idea was like, I want to talk about food and snacks and like stories from the road, but I also want to do that other like biographical and deep dive kind of stuff that Narwhal did. So I put those two together for the Heavy Snacking podcast, and I did that for about a year, I guess. But I decided to do the Pacific Plaza radio podcast because I had seen My Pet Flamingo was going to like do a podcast about their label, which I think they only ever did a couple episodes of. And 3D Blast had been doing his podcast, but there wasn't many episodes coming out. There were some other people trying to do podcasts back in like 2018 that never really went anywhere.
The Private
2019,
Suite
I can't
podcast.
remember. So 2019 is when the Private Suite podcast picked up. And
that
I really
also-
loved listening to Indy's
that
interviews.
Hugely inspired me. That was my biggest inspiration. Indy is like my biggest inspiration.
Yeah,
cool.
and so I really got into the Private Suite podcast. I loved listening to Indy's interviews, and we became friends. And I think I was on like 4 or 5 times. I don't know. Agnes, you probably remember because we were almost always on together, I feel like. But yeah, I was on that podcast a bunch. And then, yeah, last winter, there was just so much going on Pacific Plaza. Like, we were doing so much stuff. Daddy Girl was coming at me with good ideas, and like, we were going to do these vinyl projects with people. And there was so much going on. I was like, let's just do a podcast, and we can interview artists on the label. We can talk to our friends who are like, we're trying to like big up. We talk about virtual memory. We got a lot of stuff we can talk about. And I just didn't want to do it alone, so I tried to like get started where it would just be me and Data Girl. And we did a couple of them. We did one with Sam, Pop Culture, but
Yeah,
the
I
file
listened
got
to that one.
ultra corrupted, and the corrupted file like fucked up that whole interview. And then after that, like, the pandemic hit, so me and Data Girl didn't see each other for a long time. Probably not till the summer, when we got together to listen and talk about Destination Spa stuff before it was even announced. I was like, how should I keep this going? How am I going to do this? Maybe I'll just put our virtual memory sets up as a podcast. And then that was a huge headache. Doing a 4-hour podcast upload was dumb, and I don't know why I thought that was going to work out for me. And then I did that like label update one and kind of just went silent for a long time because like there was just so much happening, and I thought I was going to be doing a lot more streaming. So I was like, why do I need the podcast? I'll just have the stream all the time.
I enjoy your
And,
podcast.
you know,
You gotta get back on.
Yeah,
that.
I can only do it when I feel inspired. So like when I started Pacific Plaza Radio, I was pretty sure that the Heavy Snacking podcast was dead because I hadn't done an episode in like 6 months. So I was like, well, that's done. Let's try this. And I knew I had someone I could like do it with. And so yeah, I did it for a little while, and then COVID. And that was a nice excuse, but also like at the beginning of COVID, everyone who had a podcast just talked about COVID all the time. And like looking back to those podcasts, there's a lot of like really bad takes. And I was like, I don't want to like be in that situation. You know, I don't want to sit down and talk to someone about COVID. And just didn't do it for a while. And then when I felt inspired again, I decided to start doing it again. And I did some interviews with some really cool friends and people I wanted to talk to and get to know better. And that's why I was doing the Heavy Snacking podcast. I mean, I wanted to get to know people better and ask them questions that no one else was going to ask them, because I wanted to talk to people that weren't going to get long form interviews with anyone. And so I try and talk to people who aren't going to like get a chance to sit down with Indie Advent, or aren't going to get like interviewed for some other random blog or something. So that's what like I wanted to do. So like no one had been talking or even talking about All Hell Breaks Loose. So I was like, definitely want to talk to Tyler about this. After having done so much work together for like 6 months at that point, I was like, I need to like know more about Tyler, like on a personal level.
Yeah.
Like not just like to like not just to gas him up, but like on a personal level, because I had started like finding out stuff from Trevor, Earthboy, and like other folks like, oh, me and Tyler have a lot of other things in common. We probably ran across each other a couple times over the years and we just didn't know it, which of course was the case. And I love that kind of stuff. So that was a good one. Talking to Paths was great. It was really cool to get to know him better, because like he's been the longest running artist on the label.
Wow.
So that was really cool. And I wanted to talk to some other people, but like when people start pressuring me to do it, it makes me not want to do it. So
I
like
get
people like,
that.
please let me on your podcast. Yeah. It's not something I want to feel the pressure to
I
do. And if I'm putting pressure on myself to do it, I'm just not going to.
Yeah, I totally get that. I've had that, but I've been like super open with everybody because, like this is what kind of keeps me motivated to like live.
Yeah.
Honestly, not to be like, but I don't have a job right now. This is kind of like my job, and this is like um
Yeah, totally.
this is a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
that was me with shows, you know? Like I wasn't living to do DoorDash and work in an escape room. I was doing that so I could keep booking shows and like smoking cigarettes in front of my warehouse from like 8 p.m. until 2 in the morning, 4 nights a week. And that was like why I was doing it. So I could be booking shows and hanging out with people and talking to people and meeting bands. And like some of those bands I met and like helped book shows, like getting pretty well known now or doing like pretty crazy shit. Like you guys might have actually seen some of those bands in like viral videos and stuff, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty tight. Like, and you get a lot to look back on. And I find that talking to other people helps me process and come up with ideas better. So I like to just talk with people, just to spitball and just to say things and just to have them say things back to me so those things they say can inspire me. And
Definitely.
I think that's an important part of the creative process that's being lost with everyone kind of doing things in their bedrooms or doing things alone. And definitely something I miss about COVID is being able to just like spitball ideas and just shoot the shit and talk about things in person. It's much different than talking on the internet.
Definitely. Yeah, it's weird, and I like it because I have always been kind of into that, but like I'm kind of like I want human interaction, but it's whatever.
Yeah. Well, when y'all move out to LA, we'll get you guys set up with the proper mics and stuff you need, so when people come through on tour, you could sit down in person and talk to them.
Hell
'Cause
yeah.
that's a really fun thing to do. Like I'm glad you do this as like a video thing, and like it actually feels like a real like two-person conversation in the moment with like no edits. But it is very cool getting to sit down with an artist you like really respect, and you're like literally sitting like 5-10 feet apart, and like you have your notebook or your questions or however like you do it, you know, or your phone or whatever, and you're like sometimes you just gotta like take a pause for a second and be like, holy shit, like I need to ask them another question. Like it was amazing listening to that for like 5 minutes, but whoa, what am I gonna do next? But like also being able to like sitting down in person is very cool. You can like feel people's energy in a very nice way, and it was really nice to be able to like sit down with artists I didn't know very well, or even sit down with friends that like maybe I actually didn't personally know very well, even though we had been doing stuff together for years. So I definitely do miss that. I've been lucky that I've been able to do that with some people because I have seen like various people over, God, how many months has it been? 11 months, I guess. You know, I hung out with some people. I helped a couple people get DJ sets recorded or get like live videos recorded or giving people feedback on stuff or meeting up and delivering people's tapes in person or delivering Groovy his vinyl records and stuff. And that night that I delivered Groovy his records, actually, we just stood outside on the street for like 3 hours, like 2 or 3 hours, I think, talking, like standing like 6 feet apart. It was actually me, him, and DS Dude standing in like a big expanded triangle with our masks on, just like talking for like 2 or 3 hours, and it was like 50 something degrees outside. You know,
Yo, Groovy.
it's different for sure.
Groovy and Daniel, they're so fucking talented and awesome people. I love them and I love being their friend. I just had to say that. Like, they are amazing. I would love to just hang out with them and talk to them for 3 hours. That sounds like a good time. Maki no Ichibu has a question. Question for Alex. The releases, are you picking / asking artists, or people send demos? What's the ratio on that?
That's a good question, actually. I was kind of thinking about that a little bit because I thought that might come up. And it's definitely a case-by-case basis. I don't really have like a public submissions are open sign. They are always just kind of open. But lately, over the past year, I've gone from mostly submissions to asking some artists, trying to continually work with some artists, and then also taking some demos. Yeah, it's really a case-by-case basis. Like, if you ask me, like, for specific releases, I could tell you, like, exactly how it came together. Like, that was one of the other reasons I wanted to do the podcast, is because every release has, like, a good story for the most part. Like, I'm not a cassette factory. I'm not dropping 2 albums a week or, like, constantly putting out, like, tons of new releases. Like, I've been trying to purposefully do, like, 2 releases a month and reissues, basically, and a video release, and I feel like that's more than enough content for everybody. Like, there's so much content in the Vaporwave role right now, it's insane. Like,
literally, I
so
don't
yeah, it's a case-by-case basis. And like Pop Culture, I wrote a note in one of his orders for a previous tape saying, hey, would you like to do your next album on Pacific Plaza? And he was down. Male Tears approached me, but I already kind of had a feeling that was going to happen, and I was ready to say yes. iClick was just a submission, and I listened to it, and I was into it. And that was sent in the demo form, and I gave feedback on that demo too, which is great. Paradise of Yesterday, that was just, they hit me up, and I had known who they were, so I was like pretty stoked about that, and like the kind of music they made fit really well with the label. So when they had like a little EP to do, I was like, hey, that's perfect for our special format, the 3-inch mini CD. And they were like, oh, I've never had my music on that format, awesome. And I was like, bingo, perfect. Darian Shields was a return. I was hoping he would ask me again, because like it's not about releases selling out for me. Like, that's important, like, don't get me wrong, like I want to make sure everything gets paid for, but like the first Darian Shields album we put out last year, right when COVID hit, didn't sell out. Still a good album, still really cool. But like, just because it didn't sell out doesn't mean I wouldn't work with him again, because Darian Shields is a very creative and cool person on like a personal level, beyond just the vaporwave stuff he does.
I love his TikToks. His TikToks are cool. I have his tapes and mini disc with me right now. Yeah, so I was more than happy to do another Darian Shields album, just because like, oh, that was someone I was really excited to meet in 2020. Like, the Seattle scene has like a bunch of people in it that like I really enjoy, and I've been kind of like, I think there's this Seattle, Southern California psychic connection because of us being Pacific Plaza and like the various people I've worked with, but also just because I've released a lot of Pacific Northwest artists, but I feel like there's one of those like psychic connections that you kind of get between music scenes. This is a thing in punk as well, where there's just like certain places where like, seems like bands from blah 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 city are always coming through our town. And it's because there's like this connection, and like that's totally a thing I believe in, and I think that's a thing with like Seattle and like me and the Pacific Plaza people down here. So yeah, Darian Shields is someone I was really excited to meet. I mean, Payton, obviously I've met Payton once before at Econ 2, but like in a more comfortable, on his own home turf kind of place, I think would be a nice way to see Payton. And it'd be cool, like, meet Vilter, and person who's behind Otto is also up in that area, and some other people like Epson. And then I know like N-Rail was up there, but like gonna be down here now. So yeah, big affinity for the Northwest and like people up there. Manny, Codex Encyclopedias up in Oregon. Good stuff. We got a lot of customers from various parts of Washington and Oregon, not just like Seattle, like other parts of Washington and Oregon that are out in the boonies or near like Medford and or Methford as people call it. Methford?
So
what? Oh, no.
Big meth problems in Southern Oregon.
There's a lot of drug problems.
Yeah, I love the West Coast, dude. Like, touring the West Coast is the best shit ever. Just driving, like, it sucks because the drives are really long, but the drives are really beautiful. So it's a great place to go on a beautiful drive. It's one of my few hobbies during quarantine is just going out on drives.
Yeah, I want to visit Oregon so bad. I know they have amazing forests. Yeah,
it's beautiful. Oh.
Ooh, Maki has another question. Aside from the Plaza fam, who would you love to have play at the return of IRL Virtual Memory? Ooh.
I mean, like, the real return show would just
PR friends. I mean, I know people want to throw like big poppin' things or whatever, but like I want to book like the people who've been sticking with us the whole time, plus all the resident DJs. Like we technically have like 4 resident DJs. Technically, we could even have 5 if we wanted to, because like All Hell Break Sleeps can DJ. So like we have plenty of people to play. I think our model going forward will be maybe booking a big guest occasionally, but trying to focus on booking Southern California producers and booking Southern California DJs. And then I was trying to start doing like quarterly shows. The idea going forward in 2020, originally for Virtual Memory actually, was going to be quarterly DIY style show with 4 to 5 artists, and maybe fly in headliners or maybe book headliner sort of people to play them, but still keep doing our monthly DJ night every month with 1 or 2 guests and hour-long sets, as opposed to 30-minute to 40-minute sets at like a DIY show. So I'm thinking we might end up back in that kind of territory again. That would be ideal for me. And I guess in terms of like people we'd want to play when we get back, maybe not the return show, but like people I want to book were people we were already thinking about booking before COVID, which is like 3D Blast, Eyeliner, Vape Error. Yeah, I feel like those were 3 of the big ones. And I mean, we've booked almost all of them URL, so I think it'll be possible IRL. It'd be cool to book like DDS, but like 100% Electronica is going to throw that show, not us. That's the thing, being in Southern California. Like, when things all come back, we will just be constantly overshadowed by that, which it is what it is. But
that's like a once a year thing. Yours is like once a month, so maybe a little different.
George was already planning to do a monthly thing before COVID hit. He even talked about it on the Vinyl Rewind interview he did back in like December of 2019. Like they were already planning to do something like that. Like they were going to start a monthly night because they'd seen that other people made it viable already, including us and Picari Sweat and Chewing Foil literally having a space that could host Vaporwave events at any point in Los Angeles. There just was no one willing to book them.
Wow. Well, that's cool.
I mean, Picari Sweat's been doing this since 2017. I mean, it's one of the biggest live music markets in the world, but also things make it to LA and the West Coast later than the rest of the country in certain ways in the music industry, especially when it comes to like trends and when it comes to artists themselves. Like people who are in Europe and like the East Coast have it much easier in terms of getting recognized and getting respected and getting press. And I think this just goes for pretty much almost all levels of music, most genres. And that's despite LA being the entertainment capital of the world. That's because LA's big focus on TV and movies. It is a music place for sure, but TV and movies like overshadow music in Southern California, which is kind of interesting.
That is interesting. Where would be, like, New York? Would that be, like, more of a music place than California?
Oh, yeah. I mean, New York, I think... Dude, New York is, like, has its own cloistered culture as well. But, yeah, I think it's harder for, like, underground people in the West Coast to break out than it is on the East Coast. And part of that comes down to touring dynamics and, like, how spread out the country is. On the East Coast, it's not very spread out. Over here, it's really spread out. There's nothing close to LA besides the Bay Area and Las Vegas and kind of Arizona. But if you're in New York City, you go to Boston, Philadelphia, DC, like all sorts of places really easily within a couple of hours. That's just not the case out here. So I think people out west have to like do a little bit more grinding. And like I kind of embrace that personally, and I always recognize that when we were in like the DIY scene before I was in Vaporwave, it was always like West Coast. We got to grind a little harder. We got to like stand up for ourselves a little bit more, and like we just got to like be proud to be us and do our thing and support other people when they can actually make it out here, because it's hard for people in other parts of the country to make it to Southern California. If we were really in like a that Manifest Destiny West that people are in some cases trying to get to, or in some cases like they just kind of have to make it out here.
Especially
Everything
living
has
in
to
the
go to
East
California
Coast.
eventually, and it's usually Southern California.
Yeah. Like pop culture song, Southern California. So you seem to have like a big family with Pacific Plaza that includes like Data Girl, All Hell Breaks Loose, Groovy Kaiju, etc. How did you all meet?
So I think me and Dad Girl kind of covered how we met in our first podcast episode. So the short version is I was doing that nonprofit where we were trying to open up a DIY music and art space that was like youth run and led. And she was aware of that when that was going on. And since I was like the most visible like public figure leading it, like I was just a known entity to her. And then I had heard of her because I had heard she was DJing, and I was like, oh, like cool DJ person that's friends with people I'm friends with. And then when I got the Data Girl submission, I was like, who is this? Because they didn't say who they were. And I was like, oh. And then I later made the connection. I was like, this is so cool. So like we like actually met IRL and became friends. Groovy hit me up on Reddit or Twitter and was like, oh my god, I can't believe I missed the first virtual memory. I would love to do something like this. And I was like, you're Groovy Godzilla? You should definitely do this. All Hell Breaks Loose was friends with Trevor, Earthboy, and me and Trevor met in 2000. Oh, what did I say at his birthday show? Was that 2014 at that coffee shop show?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was that. So I booked his band Holloran at a coffee shop show in 2014. Who else is on the list here that I'm supposed to be mentioning? Is that everybody? Yeah, that's all the virtual memory people, at least.
That's awesome. That's so cute. You
Yeah.
met at a coffee shop. You met. Groovy contacted you. That's cool. I'm sorry. I'm like dying.
Yep. So he was like the second. He was the second guest for virtual memory, or the guest at the second show. Technically, he was the third guest because we had 2 guests on our first show.
Would you consider pop culture part of your? Because I know he's been in a lot of virtual memory.
I mean, I hope so. That was the
Yeah.
goal with asking him to be on the label, was to like
Yeah.
stick with us. But I mean, you know, people are not forced to stick with Pacific Plaza. I don't like sign contracts with people saying like, you're gonna do your next 2 albums with me. Like, I say, hey, we're gonna split the profits 50-50. I keep spreadsheets if you want to see them, and usually we pretty much just pay out when the release sells out, because a lot of stuff you kind of get the feeling whether or not it's going to sell out in a short amount of time. And usually you can kind of tell after the first hour or 2 of sales. So usually I kind of have been pretty good at judging that feeling lately. And so like I can tell if something's going to do like really well out the gate, or like by the time it's like 2 p.m. the day of the release, I kind of know if we're going to have to do a reissue or not. And I want to do more reissues now.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to be reissues. They're just gonna be second editions. They're not reissues technically. Technically, they're second editions. And so I want to do what the punk bands do, and do like 4 different color shells over like the course of a year or 2, because people want to keep buying the album. The album shouldn't die a month after it comes out. The big problem with COVID releases and vaporwave has been that most people's release kind of gets forgotten, especially right now, really quickly. And the way people try and combat that is like, it's on this format now, maybe, or this format, and each successive format sells less and less.
Yeah.
So, or they're made in smaller and smaller batches, and that's not because people want it. That starts to become a function of rarity. And I don't want my artist's music to be purchased because it's rare. I want people to buy it because they like it. And if the rare thing plays into it, so be it. But like, I'm not trying to make cassettes from Pacific Plaza rare. Like,
Yeah, I've heard
it was
of
never
that.
the goal in the first place, but it's certainly not the goal now.
I've heard of that, like to keep like releases like rare and stuff, and how labels want to do that, and it's like, that's strange. I mean,
if it's like a special edition you put a lot of effort into, I get it. Like, yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna make 40 more Dahlia Faye cassettes that have like really intense hollow stuff going on. Like, it just takes a lot of time. Like that was fun to do to kind of cap off that release, because that release had been reissued before and had come out on various formats. So like there was a very defined purpose in doing that, and the defined purpose was not to create something expensive and rare.
Yeah.
We should have made more, but
I understand.
that's a release that's been through it a couple times, and Dahlia has new stuff out there they're focusing on. I think they have another label they're working with on it. So like, you know, I'm still gonna support it, and I'm still gonna big up it when the new stuff comes around. But yeah, no one's like forced to stay on Pacific Plaza, so I appreciate when people pledge allegiance, so to speak, but there's no nothing like that going on.
Aw. Well, we're coming to the last few minutes. I have a giveaway that I'm gonna do today. I'm giving away this airship theme R23X and Equip collab. If you want it, just type in 1 and I will add you to the roster and we'll just do that live. So yeah, airship theme, R23X, Equip collab.
Hell yeah.
I did that last week
Man. Equip,
and only 2
he's so
people
cool.
joined. Yeah, I love Equip. Yeah, thank you, Nrail. Yes, I'm also after this, iClick is doing a visual album thing.
A video album
Video
or video
album.
version of their new No Smoking in the Cinema.
Hell yeah. So
Yeah, they did the video version for the Laundry album, and then I guess it got like ultra copyright striked. But the video stuff, I want to do more of it. Like it takes so long to do things, and like I don't want to like be like shitting out like 3-4 releases a month, and like it's hard to like space things out. I'm trying to give everything its like proper like shine and amount of time for promotion. So it makes things go slow, which I think is rough for some like the fans and people out there and other artists who want to work with me or work with me again. But also like it does help extend the life of albums. Like with Data Girl, the fact that we're finally actually getting this reissue done, and hey everybody, there's a VHS with it, which I think was like pretty low key, gives this album a lot more life, and it kind of like bumps the stock up again, you know?
yeah.
So,
That's so cool.
I'm hoping to
Next
keep doing that
week.
with releases that we release this year and keep them going longer than just a month.
So this week, that's what next week you're releasing that Data Girl tape.
Yep.
That's so cool. Has the
Yeah,
album itself
it's gonna look
released,
beautiful.
or
I have one right here.
Oh my god.
Yeah, these ones are in white cases this time, and they have lemon-colored tapes. So it's the opposite of the first edition. The first edition was white tapes with lemon cases, and this is switched around. And that's the kind of stuff I want to do for our second editions of stuff. I want it to be something that people will want to buy again if they're a collector, because I want people to become super fans of our artist and want to collect every edition. But also I want people to not be left out and be able to still get something after it's sold out.
Hell yeah.
I do feel bad that this took so long, but like I think Data Girl also understands that like I really want to promote other artists on the label, and luckily we're in a position of privilege with Data Girl that her work promotes itself really well and people are really into it, and so we don't have to like shove it in everyone's face. We put together a pretty subtle and like relaxing and kind of mysterious promo campaign for the album that went perfectly. And so the groundwork was laid for us to just kind of keep cruising on it. And she's really busy with like the new stuff she's doing and like the internship and things that people have seen on her Twitter. So it's cool that like, you know, she doesn't have to stress about the Vaporwave stuff. And now we have tapes again. And we have the VHS, which looks very cool as well.
Oh my god, you're releasing a
So-
VHS with it. That's so awesome.
Yeah. So
Fuck yeah.
got the nice sorbet colored inside actually. So yeah, you know, it's cool. It gives that album a longer life. I mean, what helped was like the end of the year lists coming out, and it was on a lot of those end of the year lists. So we just kind of keep getting these nice bumps every once in a while. And you know, I did the Data Dude thing for Halloween, which kind of played into
That
the album a
Halloween
bit as
thing
well
was
by
so
doing the
awesome.
remix of that one song. So it's just sort of like, how can we extend the life of the music we're releasing, and how can I promote it better so we can get outside the vapor niche, because vaporwave is still sort of a niche community, and I think a lot of people who make like, you know, those sort of disappointment posts. We see a lot of disappointment posting on Twitter, I think. I feel for them,
Yeah.
but also at the same time, it's like, you also got to realize like we're just such a tiny drop in the bucket. Like, not getting on Pacific Plaza Records is not the end of your life, and it's not that big a deal. Like, Pacific Plaza is not that big a deal in general. I think people think we're a lot bigger than we are, but I think that's just because I put like a lot of good work into it, and instead of producing a lot of content, we just produce a lot of engagement. That's the tough part, is how do you like engage people? And I want to work with artists that are good at engaging people and that people want to engage with and that I want to engage with. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's wonderful. I think that is like super commendable and awesome and I love your label because it seems like you really cater to the artist and visual artists as well, and you see that they are equally important, and that's really amazing because
Yeah.
I don't really see like a lot of labels being that inclusive, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's something we want to do in 2021. Like, Sleep Pattern, the big inspiration for that. Like, I have a lot of good conversations with them about things, and beyond just like, oh, dude, like, what's the circuit, bro? Like, oh, did you send me that PCB? Like, oh, yeah, I built it wrong. Sorry. Hey, check this build guide. There's something wrong with this build guide we're using, dude. But like serious philosophical conversations. The same thing with like Payton, Eventual Infinity. So
I love Eventual
I'm glad I've got those people on my side.
That's awesome. Your family is like very inclusive and wonderful. That's awesome. So anyways, I have it on the screen, the picker wheel that I used, and we are just gonna...
There it is.
Yeah. Do you want to actually join, Alex? Or no?
Oh, no, I'm good. Let the
Okay.
viewers have it.
All right. So, on your mark, get set, go. Let's see who it lands on. Maki!
Right. I have to wait for the stream to catch up.
Maki! Congrats! Woo! Now, all I need you to do is message me on Twitter at Gerard Wakeboard. And
Maki deserves it.
yes, he does. He extremely deserves it. You get this special edition. Well, not... I don't know. Like, this collab.
A very
between-
cool edition.
A very cool edition, yes. Of Equip and R23X. Thank you all for participating. And, all right, do you want to shout out anything?
Yeah, I'm trying to... It's funny, I'm looking in the background of my own video and seeing some, like, silly and ridiculous things in this room that would be funny to show. But also I did, like... I grabbed a couple things. I showed the Destination Spa stuff. Oh. So, related to Virtual Memory 5, last year, Virtual Memory 5, Peeb, who released a really great tape a couple months ago, and I did a remix for it, he gave me a Fisher-Price keyboard at that show. And
What?
during quarantine, I circuit bent it. So I've been doing like stuff like this, and I thought this would be fun to show. I thought Peeb may or may not be watching, but some of his friends probably are. So I had a feeling the batteries might be dead. Oh my gosh, this thing destroys batteries.
It looks so cute. I want one. Oh yeah, Peeb, his tapes looked beautiful.
Batteries are nasty.
I wish I actually like got one. I'm like, damn it.
Let's see if this will turn on now. Okay, cool.
Oh, I should put the speaker near this. So yeah, I thought I would show that. I was like trying to find random stuff to grab to bring with me in case there was anything like that. Or I have I circuit bent this little fire car.
Oh,
The battery's kind of dying.
I'm gonna
Can't
pick
really
one
hear
up
it anymore. But I showed off the little
for my
testing
birthday.
rig and some other stuff earlier. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of that stuff. I'm trying to stream, but I'm just not good at keeping up on it. So yeah, sometimes I'm doing electronic streams over on my Twitch channel. There's gonna be a bunch of new releases. There's always new releases coming. But the stuff we have coming in March, there's gonna be a Videodrome VHS. There's gonna be a Lost Cascades album. There'll be a Designator album. Designator's first release on Pacific Plaza. And I'm still fingers crossed, like, gonna get the eventual Infinity and Data Girl vinyl that's been in production for over a year at this point. That's supposedly gonna ship in March, but they keep saying this every month. They keep pushing it back every single month. So I have no idea when that will actually be done. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm gonna start finally working on the Pacific Plaza 50 compilation, which is some of the best tracks from our first 50 releases, and that's going to get like an official vinyl and cassette release sometime in 2021. Working on the Vapor Pop compilation with Zoroark Films. We got a pretty great track listing for that, and we're just trying to get it all organized and get artwork and everything figured out. So hopefully that will be done in a month or two. I think they want it to come out really soon, but like it's just going to take a while. I take a long time to work on things. That's how I am. Trucks Passing Trucks, going to be DJing Virtual Memory 23, which is going to be on March 27th. That's a Saturday. That's going to be our 1-year anniversary of URL shows.
Oh my
And
God.
I know iClick is playing. We've been talking to people for that second guest slot, but it's not booked yet. So we'll announce it when we book that second guest slot. Trucks Passing Trucks. I've been working on a Huell Hauser themed album called the California's Gold mixtape for like a year or two, and I have a lot of tracks and clips for it, but I just still have not found the time to sit down and finish it and like do the mixing and like sequencing. So I'm hoping like I can get a new Trucks Passing Trucks album out, but it's more likely that I'll do a Wave Race 64 vinyl sometime this year than get new Trucks Passing Trucks music out. So maybe there'll be a Wave Race 64 vinyl project sometime this year, because that's something I've been really wanting to do, and I was unfortunately not able to do it by the anniversary, which was like a week or two ago. So later this year.
Well,
that's it.
Let's go.
That's everything.
Awesome. And now I'm gonna next week, I will be with Windmill. He's an up-and-coming artist, and he's awesome. He makes beautiful music, and I'm going to be interviewing him next week on Sunday, same time. And thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Pacific Plaza. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Molo.
You have been so wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I love talking. I love just go on, and I could just keep spieling. Various people have had different words for it over the years, but I like spiel. That's a good one. That what's his name? The bass player of the Minutemen. He always says spiel. He calls punk rock the movement. I think vaporwave is the movement, honestly.
Definitely,
so
yes,
keep it strong with the movement, everybody.
Yes, and everyone, I'm going to now raid iClick for their visual album. Hope you guys enjoy that. Thank you so much. Bye.